There is a killer stalking the streets and rooftops of Gotham City. Violent deaths are taking place, and the few eyewitnesses left to tell the tale claim to have not been able to actually see this killer. It remains in the dark, in the shadows, almost invisible. This would lead to the press's nickname, the see-through slasher, to label this murderer that has been terrorizing Gotham. The press looks to the GCPD for answers, who have little to work on. All of Gotham now turns to the Batman, the city's protector, to stop this chaos. But this mystery may prove to be beyond even the abilities of the world's greatest detective. This is a case unlike any he's seen before. This is a killer beyond even Batman's great strength and training. And the more he unravels regarding this mystery, the more it seems the killer is not of this earth, and it's playing a game entirely by its own rules. This killer is, of course, a Yautja, the alien hunter depicted in the Predator series, and the resulting story is the DC Dark Horse comic Batman vs. Predator. The crossover was written by Dave Gibbons, with art by Andy and Adam Kubert, and originally released in 1991. At first, it was a story that stretched over 3 issues, and ultimately became a trade paperback containing the whole bloody affair. With Predator 2 having only been released a year prior, and the comic Concrete Jungle 2 years prior, the influence from these types of stories seems clear. The Predator had hunted in New York City, in Los Angeles, and now it was Gotham's turn to pit the alien hunter against its ultimate prey. This was a different approach than what we saw in the Batman Aliens story from 1997. That story mostly took place in the isolation of an ancient pyramid in Guatemala, ending with Batman ensuring that none of the xenomorph creatures would ever reach civilization. With these first 2 crossovers in particular, I think a good amount of careful consideration was taken when it came to the environments in which to portray these creatures. If an alien story takes place on modern-day Earth, then maybe the best route is an isolated pyramid. After all, a similar concept did eventually make its way to the Alien vs. Predator movie. For the Predator, however, modern-day Earth has always been fair play, and so have big cities. Gotham City makes for the ideal hunting environment. There's violence, there's crime, and plays amongst Gotham's underworld for the ultimate power. Also, familiar Gotham characters, including Commissioner Gordon and Alfred Pennyworth, included in this story along with newly written characters. This includes gangsters Leo Broden and Alex Yeager, 2 crime bosses at serious odds with some very bad blood in their past. Stuck in the middle is Raymond Squire, a former gangster supposedly gone legitimate, using his own pull within both the crime underworld and Gotham's political influencers. There is also Detective Kandowski, who works with Gordon and Batman to solve the increasingly bizarre mystery. Here we are able to witness the inner workings of Gotham. Mob bosses engage in personal vendettas, the police do their best despite the corruption. The media is the ever-watching eye. Batman works outside all of these systems, hoping to somehow bring an order to things and to take down the criminal underworld. This fragile ecosystem would be put to the test once the murders started. A time of relative peace was interrupted, and this alien visitor would shake the city to its core. It all began on Fight Night. Practically all of Gotham was there, and those who weren't were surely tuning in on television. On the bill, Bull Bersaglio versus Marcus King. 2 heavyweights enter the boxing ring and fight for the chance to be crowned champion of Gotham City. The fight's commentators drank in the moment. Some contest here tonight. These 2 just won't quit. And Bull's really bellowing now, as King dances back, mocking him. Oh, a pile drive right to the body. That hurt. And he's down. Bersaglio is down again. The referee is counting, but... saved by the bell. Just 1 round to go. Quite a fight, eh, George? You bet, Steve. The rich and powerful of Gotham are surely getting their money's worth tonight. Even looks like fight patrons Alex Yeager and Leo Broden plan to stage an unscheduled side bout. Got to stop you there, George. It's seconds out for round 15 of the heavyweight championship of Gotham City. While the rich and powerful catch the fight ringside, all the rest of Gotham were glued to their television sets. Far off, in the east end of Gotham, in an isolated salvage yard, Woodrow Pickett is watching the fight, along with his dog, affectionately named Satan. Pickett was struggling, however, to hear the fight over his loyal guard dog's howls. He turned up the volume to hear the announcers. Bersaglio charges again as King skips out of the way and lands a cross to the head. But Bull just keeps on coming. The dog continued to howl. "Quiet, Satan," shouted Pickett. "You're mighty jumpy tonight, boy. Something got you spooked, huh?" He stood up and pulled Satan by his collar. "Well, why don't you go find it and leave me watch the fight in peace, damn it?" He kicked the dog out of the front door of his trailer. "Go on, get!" The fight continued. A left jab. Bersaglio's down again. How much more punishment can he take? Pickett cracked open a cold Budweiser and leaned in closer to the fight, just as King was about to make the winning blow. He heard further howling from Satan outside, and then a struggle, loud and quick, followed by silence. The commentator on the television roared with excitement. "What a punch!" "He's gone. Out cold. Bersaglio is out cold." Pickett turned toward the door. "Satan? Satan, you all right, boy?" He grabbed his shotgun. The final count began. 4, 5. Outside, Pickett discovered the body of his dog, lifeless and smoking. 8, 9. Suddenly, 3 red dots appeared, scaling over Pickett's body. But before he could even react... 10. It's over. King wins. Marcus King is the new heavyweight champion of Gotham City. Pickett's bloodied, dead body lay across the threshold as a figure made its way closer to the trailer. The television continued to loudly broadcast the fight's finale. The crowd's going crazy, and King is still dancing. "George, can you talk to him yet?" "I'm trying, Steve." The trailer door creaked open. Marcus, congratulations." "Thanks, George, thanks." The figure turned to the source of this noise and began viewing the broadcast. "How does it feel to be, well, the new king of Gotham?" "Great, George, great." "So I guess you'll be celebrating tonight, eh, champ?" "Kind of, George, kind of. Me and Milady got the penthouse at the Plaza Hotel. We'll be having a little party of our own. You know, George?" "Ha, thanks, Marcus. Congratulations once again. And now, Steve, a word from our sponsors." A hand reached towards the controls of the television, clicking it off. A distorted voice mimicked the television announcer. "Congratulations, champ." Gotham Arena was clearing out and the patrons were making their exits. Security agents kept close to Mayor Lieberman as he approached Alex Yeager. "Well done, Yeager. Your boy put up a fine fight." "Broden's bruiser just wasn't in the same class," said Raymond Squire. "Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Ray, hope you're both coming to my little bash." "Thanks, yes." He turned to see Bruce Wayne on his way out, walking next to the police commissioner James Gordon. "Oh, Bruce. Bruce Wayne. Do you know Alex Yeager?" Wayne shook his hand. "Only by reputation, Raymond. He's a new investor in my corporation." Gordon chimed in. "Diversifying, eh, Yeager? Not earning enough from crime?" The mayor was shocked at this comment. "Gordon, I've warned you before about these outbursts. The Squire Corporation does not consort with criminals, Commissioner Gordon." "I'd love to chat, gentlemen, but duty calls." And he was on his way out. "I'll see he apologizes personally for that remark, Yeager." "I should think so," said Squire. "Ah, forget it, Mr. Mayor. Sticks and stones. Very tolerant of you, Yeager. Pays to be these days. Say, Bruce, I hear you're big on charity, too. Come on over to my party. We can compare tax shelters." The group saw Leo Broden making his exit. "And we won," Yeager mused. "Kinda symbolic, huh? Cleaner than when we used to shoot it out, too. More businesslike. So what'll you do, Leo? Sell bull to the slaughterhouse for dog meat?" Broden snapped. "I'll slaughter you. And that panty-waist ballet dancer you brought in. You wait." "You always were a bad loser, Leo." Bruce Wayne was meted by his loyal butler, Alfred, already waiting outside with the car. "Home, Master Bruce?" "No, the great philanthropist Alex Yeager has invited me to his victory celebration." "Philanthropist, sir? I understood he was some sort of gangster." "He is, Alfred, Gotham's biggest. The view from the top of the pile should be quite illuminating." At the Plaza Hotel penthouse, Gotham's newly crowned king was at his own private celebration with his special lady. "It's good to be alone, Marcus," she told him. "I missed you, with the training and all. We are alone, right?" "Sure, Lita, sure. Except for Mr. Yeager's guys over at the elevator. He says now I'm a public figure. I gotta be careful." She laughed. "Marcus, everybody loves you. Besides, the heavyweight champ's the last guy anyone would want to fight with, even in Gotham. Why, I bet you're even tougher than Batman." The thought was interrupted by a loud noise from above. It sounded almost like heavy footsteps on the skylight. Marcus looked up and saw nothing. "Thought you said we were alone, lover," Lita whispered. "We are, woman, we are." He looked up. Drops of a red liquid began to drip from above onto their bed. "Marcus, isn't that—" The skylight exploded in a crash of broken glass as the figure leapt inside the penthouse. Lita screamed. "Get into the bathroom, Lita," Marcus shouted. "Get in the bathroom." He grabbed the first object he could find to fight against the intruder. A lamp. Maybe he'd be able to knock the bastard out with it. "Fight me, you ugly mother..." Before Marcus could finish, the figure motioned and outshot a giant net at blinding speed, snatching the heavyweight champion up against the wall. The net's lining tore against Marcus's skin, and he finally released his makeshift weapon. The figure darted toward him, lunging with some kind of blade. Lita hid in the bathroom. She tried to avert her gaze from the horror going on inside the bedroom. The sounds of struggle and the slicing into skin echoed throughout the Plaza penthouse. "Oh, why?" she whispered in panicked disbelief. She heard one final noise of the struggle. A strong, ripping sound, and final thump to the floor. She looked. It was unbelievable, like some kind of nightmare. This couldn't be real. Then a voice rang out. It was Marcus's voice, a recording, distorted. It said, "Little party." Bruce Wayne was viewing the top of the criminal heap at Yeager's after-party in conversation with Raymond Squire. "Just between us, Bruce, I find it all rather vulgar, but Yeager's had to claw his way from the depths, you know? Not without spilling some blood, I hear. Really, Bruce, you're starting to sound like that self-righteous police commissioner of ours." Alfred approached and cleared his throat. "Begging your pardon, sir. That prior commitment?" Bruce could see the bat signal draped across the sky from the window behind them. "Of course, Alfred. Excuse me, Raymond." With that, this little party was over, for Bruce, anyway. Alfred brought around the car. "An incident at the Plaza Hotel, according to the police radio. I gather our city's leading pugilist was involved," Bruce said, in the back seat, beginning to adorn his nightly attire. "Though the commissioner is hardly in the habit of lighting the signal for mere fisticuffs." He made his way out. The bat entered the night. "Good hunting, Master Bruce," Alfred said. Police were at the crime scene. Lita was hysterical. Why, oh why, Marcus, why?" "Come on, honey, it's all over now." A female officer tried to console her, while Commissioner Gordon and Detective Kandowski were trying to piece together the scene. Kandowski was bringing Gordon up to speed. Two guards blew their chests wide open. Never knew what hit them. Lita continued to ramble. Why? Everybody loved him. Why? A noise from above. Her eyes widened in terror. "No!" she screamed. "Not again! No!" The officer clasped a hand over her mouth. The figure descended. It was the Batman. "It's okay," the officer whispered. "It's okay, he's on our side. Thank God." Batman wasted no time investigating the brutal scene himself. "Go on, detective." Kandowski took the lead. "Right. The killer came in the skylight and forced King upside that wall. Marks on his body looked like a net was used." Gordon raised an eyebrow. "A net?" Kandowski nodded. "Cut him to the bone. Then this. His head and spinal column were removed. He died hurting. Hurting a lot. We can't find his trophy belt either. Oh, and there's something else, sir. His hands are missing." "And the girl?" Wasn't touched, but she won't be making sense for a while. If ever. So, suspects. Motive. Did losing the championship finally push Broden over the edge? He hates Yeager enough. They've been fighting over Gotham's rackets for a quarter-century. Broden's lost 2 brothers, Yeager's lost his son and his right eye. Their truce couldn't last. This was never just another boxing match. Then who'd Broden contact for the hit? Jack the Ripper and Delta Force? As they discussed the case, the killer watched from above, silent and invisible. Its vision keyed into the subject of greatest interest, this cloaked figure, dark and menacing. It swung away, almost flying. It looked worth pursuing. At Broden's gym, the news hadn't quite yet reached the losing boxer of the night's match, Bull Bersaglio. The defeat, at least, had not broken his spirit. King was just lucky tonight, Mr. Broden. I can take him next time. I can. The old blind man, once a promising fighter himself and now glorified janitor, offered assurances. Luck's part of the game, sure enough, Bull. Broden was not so confident. This ain't no game, you blind old gimp. It's life and death. Buying an out-of-state fighter to take the title is Yeager's way of declaring war. He leaned in closer to the fighter, a cloud of cigar smoke following him. He's showing his muscle, trying to make me look small. If you can't cut it anymore, there's plenty of others hungry to... The ding of the trip gong interrupted Broden's thought. Bersaglio turned, taking an aggressive stance. What? Though not a useful gesture, the blind man tried to hold him back. Easy, Bull. The Batman stared down the mob boss with narrowed, accusing eyes. You're a loser, Broden. How does it feel? Want revenge? Want Alex Yeager's head in your trophy case, perhaps? Or maybe Marcus King's? Get him out of here, a confounded Broden demanded. Not too far, just outside the window, the true killer was listening in on the confrontation. King's dead, Broden. Someone took him apart after the fight. The betting's on you. You're betting on the wrong guy, buddy, Broden scoffed. But thanks for the sportscast. Now get out, we're busy. He signaled over to the other training boxers eager for a fight. You heard what Mr. Broden said. A strike across the face and the first was down, followed quickly by the 2 others, who were effortlessly smashed to the ground by the Batman's throws. Bersaglio wasn't going to take this. He clenched his fists. Mr. Broden, you want I should... You're in no shape, Bull. The blind man massaged his shoulders. Guy's a pro. He accepted this reality and stood back. The Batman walked away, sharing a few final thoughts for Broden to consider. Yeager won't throw in the towel so easily. He's down 1 boxing champ. And if it wasn't you, then it means somebody out there just doesn't like fighters. Either way, you should watch your back, Broden. You might lose the next round, too. Again, the dark figure disappeared into the night. His pursuer was keeping an ever-watching eye on the gliding bat. Always 1 move, 1 leap behind. That is until there was a distraction. A strange sound, an unfamiliar figure. It was a small creature in the streets. It let out a high-pitched yowling as a vehicle sped by, nearly hitting it before it got out of the way. In the vehicle was a man. Not this flying creature it had been watching. It replayed words from the gym. No shape. Wrong guy. The creature could see the figure watching and arched its back with a defiant hiss. Electricity surrounded the hunter, its invisible figure springing into clear view. It reached toward the creature, in curiosity, in anger. Next round, a distorted voice announced, and he clasped his claws. At Wayne Manor, Bruce resided in the study, transfixed on the news reports of the night's ghastly events. He stood in the room, surrounded by old hunting trophies belonging to his grandfather. Dead eyes of stuffed heads of lions, wolves, and other predators stared off into the abyss. Also hung up fatefully amidst the trophies was the 18th century flintlock blunderbuss. Alfred, while dusting this small corner of Wayne history, let out a sneeze. Gesundheit, Alfred. Dank you, sir. He continued dusting, now with a handkerchief covering his face. He muffled through. Sir, if I may say so, these things of your grandfather's, Can one really be proud of such mementos these days? What was it Oscar Wilde said about hunting? Ah, yes, the unspeakable in the pursuit of the uneatable. Bruce considered this. You're right, Alfred. Clear them out. Apart from the gun, that is. Yes, of course, sir. Those firing tests we performed in the Highwayman case. Vital evidence, as I recall. And, what of this latest unpleasantness, Master Bruce? Any clues? Bruce crossed his arms, glowering in the darkness. Partial footprints suggesting large body mass, indications of sophisticated weaponry, some flakes of corroded metal. Common rust, nothing exceptional, unlike our killer. Alfred spotted the signal. Excuse me, sir. Bruce continued. The skills of a surgeon, and the ferocity of a... Bruce caught himself, understanding the interruption. He moved the hands on the grandfather clock to 10:48, the time of his parents' murder in Crime Alley when he was just a child. The secret door to the Batcave opened, but I suspect the game is afoot once more. Alfred brought Master Bruce up to speed. The car's been fueled and tuned, sir, and the onboard systems check. Oh, and the utility belt had its regular service. You've been busy, Alfred, Bruce said, putting his gear together. One tries to keep things in order, Master Bruce. I only wish Gotham were as responsive to your efforts. The Batmobile sped through the night. Special backup confirming attendance. Request location. This brought him back to the gym. GCPD was surrounding the building along with a SWAT team. The Batman approached and saw Detective Kandowski waiting. Where's Gordon? Mayor Lieberman called him in for another chewing out, then personally ordered the SWAT team along. Locals just love it. Medics moved by with dead bodies draped over stretchers. But we got a witness, Kandowski said. And this one can talk. An eyewitness? No, not exactly. It was the blind man, slouched in the corner. An eerie calm was over him as the detective and the Bat came to him. You're soon back, son. Had another visitor in the meantime, but you can probably tell that. Funny, don't reckon any of them saw much more than me, but all I heard was screaming. Grown men, trained fighters, pleading for God's mercy. Anyone mention a name? The blind man shook his head. Kandowski gestured to the body closest by. It was Bersaglio. Same as King, head and hands. Bull took the longest to die, the blind man said. That, and a sound like my daddy scything corn. And it came and stood right by me. Walked like a man, but it wasn't. I was ready to die then, but the darndest thing, it spoke. Open season, it said. Just that. Open season. Then it left. Blind and old as I am, guess I wasn't worth killing. And its voice? Well, may just be shock, son, but I'd say it sounded kind of like you. Trauma counseling took the old man away and the Batman continued to investigate the scene. Kandowski watched the old man leaving and pressed her pen against her lips curiously. So is the old guy punchy, or are we dealing with some kind of boogeyman, or what? I think it's or what, detective. He carefully secured a sample of material found in the boxing ring. The dead. Is Broden among them? No. Would you believe, Sundays, he always visits his mom? Lucky man. Yeah. Just then, the familiar shouting of the police commissioner could be heard from outside, evidently not happy with SWAT's appearance. I don't care what the mayor said. You get your men the hell out of here, Captain. That's an order. But, sir, the captain started. Can it? Gordon snapped. I'm in charge here, mister. A sight trailed up the blind man, entering the ambulance. 3 red dots. Batman saw the man was targeted. He leapt to save him, but before he could reach, a bright blue light lit up the scene. A hole opened up in the man's chest. The SWAT leader took action, believing to have spotted the shooter. Up there, something on the roof. Open fire. No, demanded Gordon. But the team began their barrage of bullet fire into the roof above, shooting blindly, hitting nothing. No, hold your fire, Gordon shouted. Hold your fire, damn it, we've got a street full of people here. The SWAT team held down. The smoke cleared. Batman was grasping at the old man, still looking for the assailant above. Gordon looked over. "What the hell are you playing at? Take cover." The same 3 dots returned. Now they were aimed directly at Batman's chest. He looked up. He believed he saw what he was looking for. Just a glimpse, obstructed by smoke, but sudden flashes of electricity, and all again disappearing. But he saw it. Defiantly, he stared it down. It looked directly at the predator. And the sights disappeared. He continued to look up, not sure if the thing was even still there. Once again, Gordon questioned the Batman. "I said, what the hell are you playing at?" "I'm not sure, but I think I'm starting to understand the rules." He returned back to the Batcave and back to the news reports. He had told Alfred of his brief encounter staring down the hunter's barrel. "Pardon me saying so, sir, but wasn't that a little, foolhardy?" "A calculated risk, Alfred. After all, the killer could have shot me the previous night. He was close enough to hear my voice, but now I'm certain there's a macabre logic to all this. King, the boxing champion, is killed face to face. Same with Bersaglio and a room full of other fighters, all defeated in hand-to-hand combat. Yet 2 armed guards are simply shot and a terrified girl spared. A blind old ex-fighter is passed over, then casually picked off. Our murderer is choosing his prey, acting within some savage code of honor." He overheard footage of Broden blaring on the reports and turned his attention closer. The report continued. "Following last year's sensational acquittal on criminal conspiracy charges, many consider Alex Yeager the true power in Gotham City. Through an associate, property tycoon Raymond Squire, Yeager made this reply to Broden's accusations. As Bruce made further preparations, the ending of Squire's statement arched an eyebrow. I propose an immediate meeting on neutral ground, the Squire Center, at 6 this evening." Of course. Alfred, I've got a job for you." "Sir?" "I want you to sniff around the junkyards in the East End." "A lead on our killer, sir?" "Yes. I found more rust flakes at the gym. But these carried automobile paint and mud. Mud of a type found only in alluvial deposits east of the river. The rust's magnetized. A large electromagnet would do that, the type scrap metal is moved around with." "Very well, sir. And you?" "I'm going to the big meeting. The scent of violent power might just prove irresistible to whatever's stalking this city." Under the conceit of meeting with Squire about the Foundation's charitable causes, Bruce Wayne had entered the scene and left almost as quickly. "I realize how important your charity work is, Bruce," Squire said, "but I'm awfully busy. Mayor Lieberman's relying on me to resolve this unsavory gang murder affair." "Oh, the Yeager-Broden feud," Bruce recalled. "Yes, terrible people really, but one meets all sorts, you know. Here they are now. Bye, Bruce. You'll be hearing from me." "Looking forward to it, Raymond. Gentlemen." Bruce left and passed by the mob bosses entering the room. Now heading to the roof, it was time for the Batman to make his play and see if the killer would strike. Yeager took a seat. "Is this room clean, Ray?" "It was swept only 15 minutes ago, Alex. We can talk freely," Squire said. "No interruptions, I hope," Broden added. "I assure you, gentlemen, the area is secure. Now to business. Mr. Broden, Alex and I, not to mention our good friend, the mayor, are very disturbed at these stupid accusations." Batman perched on the roof above, listening in. So much for the sweep. "Stupid!" Broden shouted. "Listen, buddy, I ain't a college boy, but I can figure this out. One night Al's fighter gets wasted, next night it's my turn. It's called revenge, buddy, except I didn't do Al's boy." "Leo, listen, I believe you," Yeager said. "We've known each other all our lives. Killing King wasn't your style, and I don't think I'm stupid enough to want a war, do you? Not now that I'm legit. No, there's a third player here, Leo. Let's get together, keep Gotham ours." "The mayor is keen to maintain the, status quo, too," Squire added. "No upsets, no..." A blast of glass exploded from the window. The men jumped and ducked for cover. It was the killer. All looking around could make out the outline of this giant figure surveying the room. Security began to draw their guns. "Mr. Yeager!" Leaping from above, Batman made his way from the roof to the window, hurling his batarang to disarm the group firing upon the killer. Its own tools were faster, taking them all down in an instant. As the final armed man was stricken down, Batman leapt inside. A brief, quiet calm took over the room. Then a voice. "All I need." The invisibility cloak turned off, and the hunter revealed itself to the Batman in an aggressive stance. "I see you, you son of a..." Then the blast of the shotgun. Broden was carrying his own insurance. The unexpected firepower knocked the hunter back, straight out the window, falling into the streets below. Its clawed hand reached into the jaws of a gargoyle, and the electric buzzing of the cloak enveloped it in invisibility once more. The press and police below, eager to find results of the meeting, found a different spectacle altogether. "The window! Someone fell out the window! I saw him! Where'd he go? Batman's up there! Look!" Gordon and Kandowski made their way up with the GCPD. Broden still held his smoking weapon. "Drop the piece, Leo," demanded Kandowski, aiming her piece right at his head. Broden obeyed and lowered his weapon. Gordon looked around in shock. "What the hell's happened? Did you..." Squire was a wreck, clasping his hands over his head. No violence, please." And Alex Yeager was among the dead. Blood was everywhere, but not all of it seemed human. Batman had noticed the drops of glowing yellow-green fluid on the floor. For the first time since encountering this thing, he knew it could bleed. "The killer was here," he said, and made his way out. "What? Where are you going?" Alfred had provided the answer for that. "Eastern Avenue, Alfred?" "Yes, sir. Pickett's salvage. Unlike the other 2 yards, it was locked and quite deserted. However, strangest of all, in my experience of such establishments, there wasn't even a barking dog." The night air filled Pickett's salvage with an acrid, rusty aroma that suggested business was still in operation. But it was dead silent, and as deserted as Alfred had described. Batman cut into the chain-link fence, made his way in, and approached Pickett's trailer. The television was on. The volume was high. An old sitcom playing. "You did what? With the pot roast? What am I going to give your father for dinner now?" The set echoed canned laughter into the night, and audience of none. Looking inside, Batman viewed the trophies collected from the crime scenes. The hands. The skulls. The heavyweight championship belt, now stained with blood. And bodies, hanging upside down. One indicated the reason for the yard's lack of a barking dog. The television continued to blare. "Oh no, that's him now!" The sound of the hunter's blade retracting caught his attention. The wounded warrior was limping his way home, leaving a trail of blood behind. He removed his mask, listening to the noises of the television from inside. "Hello, dear. Good day at the office?" "Sure, compared to undergoing major surgery." More canned laughter. The killer sat down and tended to its wound. The shotgun blast to the thigh had left a mess, and evidently caused this creature a great deal of pain, but it was certainly not against its ability to mend it. Batman would not be able to leave here undetected. He prepared his next move. A small device that may provide his own brand of invisibility. He quietly set it, but not quietly enough. The killer turned, and Batman threw the smoke pellet toward its direction as it grabbed a weapon. A disc. The television erupted in laughter once more, and the killer threw the weapon. Despite his reflexes, Batman could not get entirely out of its way. The disc's blades tore cleanly at Batman's leg and returned to its owner. The predator now brandished a large, spear-like weapon and began a trek through the yard to find its prey. It followed the trail of red blood, but a noise had thrown him off the track. A bolt thrown by Batman in the opposite direction. The killer turned, emitting satisfied clicks. It approached the source of the noise and found nothing. Suddenly, a loud noise from above. Batman hit the lever, releasing the magnetic field holding a pile of car scraps, which fell onto the predator, burying it alive. Batman slowly approached. He moved a large piece of scrap to see if the creature had been injured, or even killed, when a shot hurled out from the darkness within. It roared past Batman's face, skinning him closely and leaving a smoking cheek. The Predator lifted up the scrap on its own, easily tossing it away as he moved into the injured Batman. The distorted recording voice spoke out. "See you." It grabbed at his cape, ripping it in the process. Batman was still in a state of shock and was losing blood fast. The killer bared its claws and spoke once more. "Son of a... understand the rules." It bent its head back, readying to collect its desired trophy. Batman pressed the button on a remote as it continued. "Championship." And the rumbling of the Batmobile could be felt in almost an instant. It crashed through the junkyard gates, swerving past the alien hunter and knocking it back. It got back on its feet, turned to the roaring vehicle, and fired its shoulder cannon. It swerved again, knocking it back again, and Batman entered the vehicle. Back up, the Predator took out its spear and darted to thwart the Bat's escape. The blade crashed through the windshield, a tear to his arm. He ducked for cover and commanded the vehicle's voice controls. Home. The Batmobile sped off just as sirens rung out and the police cars came rolling in, nearly colliding with the fleeing car. "Watch out!" Batman? They looked inside the yard to see the disaster laid out before them. An anonymous call had come in, reporting some disturbing noises. Suspected something pretty awful was going on. "Looked in a bad way," one cop said of the Batman. "Guess he caught up with the slasher." That caller was right. Pistol drawn, Gordon came in with the SWAT team, Kandowski close behind. "Captain, get your men in there. Shoot anything that moves." "Yes, sir. Search and destroy," said the SWAT captain. Kandowski looked around. Could take forever, joint this size. So many places to hide. The morning brought a new curiosity to the case, and Gotham's media made no hesitation to follow the gory details. After an anonymous tip-off, police failed to capture the multiple murderer at a junkyard in Gotham's East End. Jenner, are you there? Yes, Mel, and Batman's badly damaged car was seen speeding from the scene as police arrived. We understand there is also evidence of a bloody battle inside the yard. Earlier, a weird net weapon, believed used in the slaying of Alex Yeager at the Squire Center, was taken for forensic tests. Sources report that its metal has defied chemical analysis. She caught up to Commissioner Gordon, holding a mic to get a word. "Commissioner, is Batman still alive? The killer, could he be a monster from another world?" Gordon, breezing by, left a no comment and was gone. The reporter was handed an update live on air. "And we've just heard that some grisly trophies have been discovered here. They're said to include the missing remains of champion boxers Marcus King and Bull Bersaglio. Now, back to you, Mel." Leading property tycoon Raymond Squire spoke of his associate, Alex Yeager's death, which he witnessed. "If it had not been for Leo Broden's reckless use of firearms, Batman and I could have captured the killer." A snort from a viewer. "You don't believe that crap, do you?" It was James Gordon, walking in on a chat between the mayor and Squire. Mayor Lieberman did say he wanted to meet after all. "Gordon, how dare you interrupt—" Gordon cut him off. "You're damn lucky Broden had that shotgun, Squire, or your skull might be in a bag downtown too." Squire stood up, fuming. "I don't have to take this. I'm a very busy man." Gordon barely acknowledged Squire and aimed his sights to the mayor. "Me too. What is it now, Lieberman?" The mayor looked over. "My apologies, Raymond. Official business, you know." Squire had left, and staff had brought in the mayor's lunch of spaghetti and meatballs. He tucked in a napkin and began his barrage on the commissioner. "I'm very unhappy with you, Gordon. Very unhappy. Insulting my important friends is bad enough. Allowing some madman to kill one is unforgivable." He rolled up a wad of tomato sauce-drenched noodles and took a bite. He kept on talking while chewing. "You'd better be making every effort to catch whoever's doing this, or you'll have your head on a plate. Understand?" Gordon turned to leave. "If that's all." Ever since the attack, Broden had been hiding out at his own estate, surrounded by security, with his mother along. She questioned these actions. "Are you frightened of the boogeyman like when you were a little boy, Leonard?" "Ma, I'm not frightened. Just taking precautions. Even forgetting the killer, I'm still gonna have to fight every two-bit hood in town for a piece of Yeager's action. Face it, Ma, I'm a target. Hell, we're both targets. Everyone knows what you mean to me. Broden puffed on his cigar and paced the room as his mother sat in the recliner, half paying attention to him, half to the television. She clicked her tongue. Leonard, won't you ever learn? Let the other boys have the penny ante rackets. You could do better. The killer's given us what we've waited for. Your chance to go legitimate. Broden's eyes lit up. She continued. Make a deal with that stuffed shirt Raymond Squire. With what you know about his ex-partner, not to mention his so-called heroics, you could ruin him. But tell him you'll keep quiet for a piece of his corporation's action, and a seat on the board. You can take Yeager's place. Think of it, Leonard. You'd be respectable. A real businessman. She handed him the telephone and he gave her a peck on the cheek. Ma, you're the neatest. He made the call. Raymond Squire was less than pleased at Broden's proposal. Well, I call it blackmail, Broden, Squire shouted over the phone. No, I'm not saying I won't discuss it. Let's not be hasty. Let me think about your proposal. Look, I have to be out of town for a few days. Unavoidable, you know? We'll speak when I return. He hung up the phone and was met by his assistant. She helped him with his coat. Everything set, Marcia? Affirmative, Mr. Squire. The ski lodge has been prepared. Your whereabouts will be known only to myself. All communications are to be encrypted, and the media will be fed a plausible cover story. You will effectively disappear until such time as the killer has been apprehended. Good. Oh, and Marcia, place a call to that extermination service of our late friend, Yeager. Tell them I'd like a quotation for a Mr. Broden. He entered the elevator, pressed for the main floor. Suddenly, there was darkness. Squire clenched his briefcase defensively. He sensed he was being watched. The lights. Who's there? Whatever it was getting closer. No, Squire begged to the unseen assailant. Oh, please, anything. I'll pay. Marcia, still in the office, heard the blood-curdling screams cut short by the sound of a blade slicing into flesh. She approached the elevator. To her terror, she saw blood seeping from the elevator doors. The killer appeared. The distorted sitcom playback screeched at the opening. Good day at the office. Marcia fell to the floor in shock. The crime scene was a bloody vision of hell. Scarlet Red had run over the entire city, blood in the streets, running down buildings, drenching Gotham's citizens. At least, this was the vision that could be viewed with the model of the new renovation Squire had been working on. For all his big talk on TV, Squire was terrified, going to ground up state. Leastways, I figure that's what his secretary was babbling about. After yesterday, there were guards all over the building, but none of them even saw the killer. He filleted Squire in the elevator and spread what he didn't want all over this model. Commissioner Gordon rubbed his chin. So what do we have here, Kandowski? An invisible killer with weapons like nothing the lab boys have ever seen, who takes body parts for trophies? If it is a gang vendetta, it's beyond Broden's capabilities. Unless he found a hitman in the Planet X phone book, Kandowski mused, as they were being watched. Or maybe some super science psycho vigilante wants to show Batman how to really kick butt. She looked up to the sky. The signal. Unanswered. Speaking of whom, she said, he's gone to ground too. Gordon frowned. That's what worries me, Detective. Whatever Batman is, he's no coward. Alfred was scrubbing the bloodstains on the floor left by Bruce on his return after his encounter with the Predator days prior. He paused, hearing the ring of the bedside bell. Master Bruce had finally regained consciousness. "Master Bruce, are you awake?" A pause, then a response. What time is it, Alfred?" "It's 7 in the evening, sir. A Monday." "How am I?" "Rather poorly, I'm afraid, sir. A great deal of blood was lost. You sustained deep puncture wounds, extensive lacerations, third-degree burns, and a severe concussion. You're lucky to be alive." "And the killer?" "I took it upon myself to alert the authorities, sir." Still at large, eh? Alfred, I need some things. And tell me, is everything quiet tonight?" "One can only pray so, Master Bruce." Alfred closed the curtains, hoping Bruce would not see the signal. And he left the news off, at least for now. The reports, however, captured the interest of the killer himself. The so-called see-through slasher has been blamed for several unexplained deaths and a variety of property damage over the last week. Police Commissioner Gordon refused to confirm these reports or to comment on the apparent failure of the bat signal to summon Batman for several nights. Despite assurances from Mayor Lieberman, city authorities seem powerless to bring the mysterious, some say alien, murderer to justice. And there are fears of citizens taking the law into their own hands. In the power vacuum left by the death of acknowledged crime boss Alex Yeager, Gotham's underworld has been racked by a wave of violence. From his home on Westgate Drive, community leader Leo Broden issued this challenge. "It's time the killer who's upsetting our city was hunted down. So if he's out there watching, hear this. Leo Broden's gonna get you, buddy." Broden remained at his estate, looking forward to the future prospects of going legitimate and still somewhat at ease with all of the security protecting him from the killer. Broden's goons made confident small talk in the late hours of the night. "Slasher don't have a chance. There's Gotham, you Vegas boys, the team from the Apple, and even a bunch of Yeager's top guns have come over. It's gonna be some bear hunt." "And some bear? Suppose it comes hunting us?" Take it easy. We got razor wire, landmines, and enough ordnance to stop an army." The night's silence was broken by clicking noises. The men looked up, trying to catch a glimpse of the invader. "Wait," one said, confused. He thought he could see something. "By the fence, like a mirage. See?" He tossed his cigarette, and the other aimed his weapon, eager to commence the hunt. They began firing. Bullets whizzed past the mirage. It jumped down, inside the complex, and set the landmines off. 2 blasts went off simultaneously, and the men aimed their fire towards the explosions. They lowered their guns and looked around. "Where'd he go?" The killer made its way behind them. "Too much smoke. Can't..." The voice interrupted. "Should watch your back." It materialized into the towering beast, aiming its blades directly into the face of one of the goons. In utter shock, he spoke, weakly. "Holy mother of..." It slashed and gutted at the men. A few quick maneuvers, and they were easily taken down. It wasn't long before the commotion was recognized and backup arrived. Further goons from Broden's makeshift army attempted to take down the beast. It began picking them off, one by one. Broden quickly armed himself and guided his mother into a secure area. "You told me this place was secure, Leonard." He wasn't having it. "Get in the strong room, Ma," he commanded. "You'll be safe here. Promise. 20 of my best men out there, Ma. Nothing'll get by them." As he closed the door, they could hear further screams and weapon fire. "Nothing. Don't worry, Ma." She held him close. "If only your father were here, or your brothers. Oh, Leonard." More screams from the outside, more pleading for dear life. "Ma, I said don't worry." She grasped at the golden cross around her neck. The screaming and firing stopped. There was silence. "There," Broden announced. "They stopped him. Told ya, Ma." The Predator could hear the muffled conversation from inside the strong room. It followed the sounds. "Be fine now." Broden repeated this affirmation. "We're gonna be fine." The killer locked onto the noise and saw its target from behind the strong room door. It crashed through the reinforced steel and concrete like it was tissue paper. Ma Broden screamed at the top of her lungs. The giant beast was now uncloaked, in clear view to the mother and son. Ma balled her fists. No. No. No! She ran up to it, pounding her fists against the creature as hard as she could. Ma, get out of the way! Leo yelled, cigar still secured to the corner of his mouth, aiming his gun. It tossed Ma Broden aside and shot the weapon right out of Broden's arms. Leonard! She screamed. Ma! He screamed back, reaching out to her. The killer thrust its blade upwards, then straight into the soft meat, making a wet, tearing sound, which was just enough of a shock to finally lead Ma Broden to pass out. Broden's cigar fell to the floor, left fizzling and soaking in a pool of his own blood. In the days that followed, rain poured steadily into the nights of Gotham City. The media was having a field day with the latest murder. The police still had nothing to go on, and still no sight of Batman. Commissioner Gordon was just about at the end of his rope. May as well pull the plug on the lights, sir, Detective Kandowski said. It's been a week now. Gordon stared out of the rain-streaked window into the vulnerable city. He needed to think, and he needed to make a few more phone calls. Anybody left on the list? Kandowski handed him a clipboard with some contact information. He looked at it and let out a small grunt. Always was a long shot, I guess. The call went out to Bruce Wayne. Alfred answered the phone. Good evening. Wayne Manor. How may I help you? Did you say Batman, Commissioner? Yes, I need to speak to him. To find out if he's still alive, at least. I'm calling well-connected and influential citizens like Mr. Wayne in the hope that someone might know where... Mr. Wayne's out of town. No idea when he'll be back. I see. Sure. Thanks. He slammed the phone down. Talk about clutching at straws. Since Squire got the chop, all the high rollers have headed for the hills. On the other end of the disconnected line, Alfred set the phone down and picked up an evening snack for Master Wayne. He called out. Who was that, Alfred? Nothing for you to worry about, sir. Alfred entered the makeshift hospital room of Wayne Manor. Bruce was hunched over the bedside table, scratching out a series of designs. Alfred objected. Master Bruce, really, you should be resting. Later, Bruce said. Oh, and Alfred, where did you hide the remote control for the TV? The next day, Commissioner Gordon made his way to City Hall to meet the mayor. He was met with a barrage of questions from reporters, waving microphones and cameras in his direction. They questioned the truth behind this invisible monster. Is it from outer space? Is it terrorists? A gang war? Is Batman dead? Or dead scared? Are you powerless, Commissioner? One asked. He paused, just for a moment. Please, he said, and addressed the crowd. Please, I'm sure Mayor Lieberman will have a full statement for you after our meeting. As for Batman, I'd remind you that he's never let us down. He made his way in. Yet, a reporter shouted, pushed back by the SWAT. He was greeted by the deputy mayor and brought in to see Lieberman. Once again, the mayor was mid-lunch, wiping his face with a napkin. About time, he said. And time's one thing you've had plenty of, Gordon. Your regular procedures just aren't working. Gordon took his seat and crossed his arms defensively. This is an election year, the mayor continued, and I won't allow my administration to look weak. I want action, and I want it now. I don't care what it takes, or costs. He excused himself to go to the washroom and clean up, handing over the rest to the SWAT captain. The captain here has some bold new proposals. Won't be a moment. The captain was ready to make his case. We need a massive show of force. Call in the National Guard. Flush this slasher out. Yes, I think I've got the plot, Captain, Gordon replied. He checked his watch, waiting for the mayor to return. It had been a few minutes at this point. He stood up as he heard struggling inside. It was all very quick, very loud, and alarming. Gordon pulled out his revolver and approached the washroom door. The deputy attempted to stop what was next. You can't go... But before he could finish, Gordon had kicked down the door. Inside was the mayor's body, hanging upside down, tied to the shower faucet. An intruder had crashed through the window and had performed the grisly murder and had escaped just as fast. What had they said earlier? Gordon thought. Powerless? He looked around the bloody scene. Better call the election now. And the morgue wagon. The reports echoed through the Batcave and throughout all of Wayne Manor. Alfred looked for Bruce and called out. He found him right beside the batsuit. He had tried to don the cape and cowl, but toppled over onto the floor. You really shouldn't overdo things, sir. Bruce didn't respond. He struggled to get up, unsuccessfully. Oh, Master Bruce. I'm all right. Just tired. Of course you are, sir. Past your bedtime, I fancy. He helped Bruce up as he also grabbed the remote and turned off the news. No. Gordon, Bruce mumbled. Shh, Master Bruce. You're no use to him like this. Might I remind you of the old adage, he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day, Bruce replied. Quite so, sir. He guided him out of the Batcave entrance. Providing he doesn't kill himself in the meantime, that is. Night fell upon the city as the killer watched and waited. Gordon was preparing to make a final plea for Batman's help. He invited the press. For those of you who've just tuned in, we're at police headquarters, only minutes away from the deadline imposed yesterday by the city council following the murder of Mayor Julius Lieberman. Commissioner? He stared directly into the camera. Batman, Gotham needs you. This is no ordinary murderer we're dealing with. Only your skill, your experience, your instinct can end this reign of terror. Otherwise, at dawn tomorrow, SWAT teams with divisions of the National Guard will begin a street-by-street sweep of the city. The potential for the loss of human life is enormous. On behalf of all Gotham citizens, and as a friend, I beg you, help us, Batman. Please. The alien hunter was watching this broadcast. If there was any loss in translation of this new language, then at least the overall message seemed to be understood. The Batman was gone, and nothing would be getting in the way of taking the hunting grounds of Gotham to an all-new level at dawn. Thank you, Commissioner. Only seconds left now for Batman to make contact. 4, 3, 2, 1. Midnight. Dead, injured, or just plain afraid, Batman has deserted Gotham. "5 minutes passed. Do you think we'll ever see him again, Commissioner?" a reporter asked. Gordon looked up into the sky. I don't know. So the search and destroy operation will go ahead, with you in charge. Until a new mayor is elected, I guess so, yes. Sir, the light? A SWAT member asked. Kill it, son, the captain said. It's over. Kandowski barged through the door leading to the roof of the GCPD. Commissioner, she shouted. Sir, a mobile unit just called in. They've seen something. Down at the old cathedral, St. Martin's. Sounds like the slasher. Gordon frowned. Kandowski, we've had 30 reported sightings already this shift. Yes, sir, but the details. It smells different. I've got a feeling. He sighed and turned to walk away. Then do what you've got to do, detective. This cop's got to try and catch some sleep. I'll be at home. And that's where Gordon was headed, along with 3 police escorts. None of them knew that they were being followed. He was met at his apartment to the ringing of the telephone. He turned his keys into the lock. Okay, he said from outside. He opened the door and turned to the escorts. You guys get back down to the car. I'll be fine. He picked up the phone and set down his keys. Gordon here. Who's... The voice of the Batman was on the other end of the line. It's me, Jim. I caught the end of your appeal. Can we talk? Talk? I was afraid we'd never talk again, friend. How are you? Later, Jim. Listen, our killer. I don't believe it's of this world. As he spoke, he began his attempt to put on the batsuit. Gordon could hear his strains of pain during this effort. He continued. I think it's on safari here in Gotham, choosing only the biggest, most powerful prey to hunt. After it won a hideout, our champion fighters were its first victims, followed by Alex Yeager, the city's most ruthless gangster. Then, well, it almost caught me. Squire, Gotham's best-connected fixer and would-be hero, was next. Broden, who boasted he would hunt the alien down. And once Lieberman started to throw his weight around, his fate was sealed too. Which leaves... Jim, are you sure you're not in danger? Danger? There are 3 of the department's best marksmen on the roof, friend, and another 3 right outside in the street. I'm safe enough. I hope so, because with the mayor dead, I think you're next. Go to headquarters. Stay there. Gordon was distracted by the ringing of his doorbell. Commissioner. What? Hold it. Sounds like that damn news reporter is snooping at the door. He set the phone down, unlocked the door, and began turning the knob. I don't know how in blazes you talked your way through my men, young lady, but... Batman called out from the other line. Jim, no. The door swung open. The sitcom line played back. Hello, dear, it said. Gordon began to pull out his weapon, but the alien hunter was too fast. Its weapon fired directly into his hand, leaving it smoking and the commissioner very much unarmed. Pot roast smells great, the voice said. A sick attempt at mockery. Jim, Batman continued to call out from the phone. Gordon crawled across the floor and the hunter made its way to him. It pulled him up by his trench coat lapels. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. It looked up to the doorway. Kandowski stood there, reaching for her gun. Girl, the voice asked. Yeah, Kandowski responded. But on my planet, women also got teeth. She let out 4 shots, all successfully hitting the beast's torso. It fell back onto a chair. Kandowski reached for Gordon, helping him up. Get out, sir. Kandowski. No. Sorry, sir, Gotham needs you too. She guided him out of the doorway, giving him a push outside and into the stairway. The door slammed shut. Kandowski, Gordon called, weakly. A rush of adrenaline and a shout this time. Kandowski! He heard further shots from the detective, and one from the hunter, which blasted its way through the door. Debris, rubble, and blood threw by Gordon's face. His fears all but confirmed. Kandowski stood her ground, but the killer had claimed yet another victim. It burst through the doorway moments too late, following the sound of screeching tires from the window. The voice continued to call out through the phone. Jim, are you still... It picked up the phone. The distorted recording spoke. Fight me. Who's this? Its grip tightened on the receiver, clasping down into a fist, crushing it. The line went dead. Bruce, still healing, still assisted by his cane, looked over the realization of some of his newest batsuit designs. Sir, the commissioner, Alfred inquired. Both feared him dead. If only you'd woken me earlier. But Master Bruce, your injuries, the concussion, and your eyesight still... Sorry, Alfred, it's not your fault. You've acted for the best, but I'll just have to do as I am. See? I'm not helpless or ill-equipped. Does everything check out? He adorned the rest of the suit and dropped the cane. As far as I'm aware, sir, but there's hardly been time to fully... And the automatic systems? He walked towards the Batmobile. Everything is primed and ready, sir, but I must implore you not to... Your concerns are appreciated, Alfred. But for now, please, just get clear. The engine revved, and the Batmobile sped away. Yes, Master Bruce. Back at GCPD, the commissioner had shared the details of his harrowing escape. He bandaged up his burnt arm and remained glued to the newscast. The earlier lead had been on the money. The police had found the slasher's deserted lair at Old St. Martin's Cathedral. Kandowski, Gordon lamented. came to tell me. She didn't stand a chance, sir, the SWAT captain said. The killer was long gone when we arrived. He glanced briefly at the television, reporting the discovery of human remains and skulls. But at least he didn't take anything, sir. And this just in, the news blared. 7 officers are believed dead at the home of Police Commissioner James Gordon. The walkie-talkie began to hiss wildly. Sir, surveillance report. Something's moving on the roof. The SWAT captain looked up. Call backups. We'll nail him this time. You'd better stay inside, Commissioner. No, seeing this through. Owe that much to Kandowski. Gordon got up and pulled his coat over himself. Lightning crackled and rain poured on the way to the roof. They all looked around, ready for a fight, not finding anything. Could have just been the storm, the captain said. Maybe, Gordon quietly shot back. Though he wasn't so sure. One SWAT member thought he saw something, right behind the bat signal. Look, it's the killer. Gordon forced him to lower his weapon. No! Damn it, he's on our side! A voice emerged from the dark figure on the roof. Good to see you, Jim. You had me worried. He reached toward the lever on the signal, shifting it back into the on position. Is that... one asked, in complete awe. A grin from the SWAT captain. Damn right, son. A slight nod from Gordon. So, what happens now, friend? The dark night, gleaming spectacularly in the intermittent flashes of lightning, stood at the edge of the roof. The mech bat suit's specifications were as ready as they'd be. The advanced exoskeletal armor would provide him the protection he required against his much stronger foe. Behind him, the signal was back in the sky, the emblem of Gotham's one hope, back where it belonged. Gotham's guardian addressed the team and let his intentions be known. I'm the one it wants. Let it come and get me. News 2 update. Only hours after he was feared gone forever, a victim of the so-called see-through slasher, Batman is back. We understand that he's now at police headquarters, with Commissioner James Gordon, himself wounded in the slasher's most recent attack. Also present are men of Gotham's SWAT division, who, assisted by National Guard units, are due to start an armed sweep of the city at first light tomorrow. Gordon is known to be strongly opposed to this attempt to flush the killer from cover, fearing the potential loss of human life it will involve. But despite the renewed assistance of Batman, it seems unlikely that anything can now avert the dawn deadline. And even the bat signal's continuing glow provides little reassurance for the citizens of Gotham in the face of the gathering storm. Here's hoping we can bring you better news in our next update, direct from police headquarters. Movement. The tracking inside Batman's helmet began to ping. It's taken the bait. Get your men below, Jim. But it's madness to face this monster alone, friend, Gordon pleaded. Even with a sonar unit and reflective body armor, you can't hope to... A flash too bright and too loud to be lightning struck the signal. Glass scattered across the rooftop. It was here. They looked up and saw Batman was ready. Numbers make no difference to it, Jim. And too many have died already. He's right, Gordon, the SWAT captain agreed. We can't shoot what we can't see. Gordon submitted. Okay, but He turned to Batman. Good luck, friend. Good luck. They made their way inside. Batman continued to stand his ground. Get down to the street and secure the area, men. Lord knows what's going to be coming down from up there. The invisible figure, partially realized by the fall of rain, jumped onto the roof and made its presence known. See you, the voice said. Batman unsheathed the large blade, the Predator's weapon retrieved from the fight nights prior. The hunter fired a shot to disarm the Batman. This was deflected by the armor, shielding Batman and his weapon. See you too, he said, and shot forward. He plunged the blade into the alien's shoulder. It toppled over, and the cloaking device fizzled in the puddled rooftop rain. Its camouflage would be of no further use anyway. It rose, removing the blade and letting globs of its blood to spill. Batman stared directly into its eyes. "Fight me?" It detracted its wrist blades, firmly grasped the spear, and recognized the unpredictability of its prey. The two faced each other, and each ran toward their target. The predator roared, a primal, guttural war cry. It once more activated the voice recording as it swung the bloody blade at the armored bat. "Kick butt," it said. The gauntlet locked onto the blade, swinging it to the side, the hunter along with it. Both predator and prey came toppling off the roof. The two plummeted, and Batman released his batarang, throwing it up towards a flagpole. The hunter attempted to slow its fall by digging its wrist blades into the side of the building. It screeched and sparked and smoked. A potentially deadly fall eased into a finale, crashing directly onto the roof of one of the police cars on the street. Batman continued his descent, calling out to the police officers who discovered the seemingly unconscious alien. "Back off," he shouted. The police sergeant's gun was drawn and aimed at the creature, which was clearly regaining its composure. It pulled out its own projectile, rose up, and launched the disc weapon. With incredible speed, it whizzed past Batman and cleanly cut at the rope of the batarang. The vision honed in on the bat as he made his landing, on his feet, safely. It continued the pursuit as the disc returned to its hands. Batman ducked behind a car, and the predator called out with another recording. "Loser," it said. "Major surgery." Batman pulled out the remote for the Batmobile and triggered its activation. The engine roared and once again took the hunter by surprise. The vehicle struck at the alien, knocking it over, screeching at a turn and positioning right beside Batman. He entered the vehicle. The predator rose with more recorded words. "Not again." It jumped on the top of the hood, plunging its bladed fist into the engine with a thunderous crunching of metal. Batman activated the voice controls. "Go." The Batmobile roared ahead, rounding the corner in a cloud of dust. The officers and reporters on the ground cleared the way as best they could. "Commissioner," the reporter called out, microphone and cameraman at the ready. "Was that the killer? Where is Batman taking him?" No word from Gordon. The SWAT captain stepped in. "He didn't say, lady, but somehow I don't think it's to the drive-in." The Batmobile continued to pick up speed as it navigated through the streets, and the predator remained atop, scratching and pounding away. They tore down the street, passing, darting, and dodging other vehicles and pedestrians. A fist crashed its way into the cockpit. Batman remained focused. "Engage turbo." It studied the face of its prey through its thermal vision. It guided its claw toward his face. "Pot roast," it said. The engine roared and the Batmobile's powerful afterburners kicked in, bringing the predator closer to where he wanted to take it. At least, near enough, according to the global positioning system. "Stop," he commanded the computer, and the vehicle screeched to a halt. The predator was launched from off the hood, shooting several feet away and crashing into the ground with a loud crunch and a groan of pain. Batman exited the vehicle and hurried away as the hunter rubbed at its dizzy head and attempted to get up. Now in a wooded area, and clear of the rain, the predator cloaked itself and searched for the Batman. "Search," the voice said. He was waiting. Batman took out another remote, keeping his finger on the keys. "Destroy," from the voice, now having found its target from behind the leaves. It slowly and surely made its way to strike. It slashed away at the leaves, and Batman hit the trigger. A ringing came to the hunter's ears. The high-pitched squeeze of nocturnal flying mammals filled the night air. Hundreds of bats came swooping in, directed by the sonar frequency delivered by the latest tech from Wayne Enterprises. They besieged the predator, biting and scratching as it clawed uselessly at the air. Batman moved forward. He was getting closer to Wayne Manor. The bats were now also flying in this direction. The hunter regained its focus and followed. It ran toward him, uncloaking itself and leaping in front of him. The ground then gave away beneath. The predator had fallen right into its prey's trap. It swiped its claws on the way down, hitting nothing. Batman didn't flinch. "Son of a..." The distorted recordings called out and echoed as it fell. Batman readied his batarang and secured it to a tree branch. Metallic doors in the opening clanged shut. Batman descended on the alien. It was now captured in a net and struggling to claw its way out. The netting was not nearly strong enough, though, and a few slashes from the wrist blade saw his arm free. Navigating this escape would not be easy. The net was swinging over the cavernous abyss deep within the Batcave. Batman would also have to make his way across. He made a leap and felt a sudden restraint. The Predator had emerged from the net and grabbed at Batman's cape. "Should watch your back," it said. Both came falling. Batman grasped onto the ledge of one of the cliffs. He groaned and struggled. The hunter slammed right into the cliffside, still clutching at Batman's cape. It began to climb. "Caught up," the voice said. Batman struggled to keep one hand at the cliff's edge and used the other to remove the attachment securing his cape to his suit. It was already beginning to rip. Finally it released, and with a final kick, the hunter fell into the darkness. Its claws scratched along the side of the cliff, slowing the fall. Its distorted voice echoed. "Gonna get you, buddy." It landed, as did the Batman. The two stared each other down. Then, Batman turned away, slowly walking in the other direction. The Predator followed. "Kick butt," it said, and with its last step caught the tripwire. Heavy bars came slamming down, trapping it as Batman remained calm. "Titanium steel," he announced. "You'll never cut through it in time." Still, it struck and clawed against the bars in a fury, until a vulnerable area of flesh was penetrated by a small dart. "Time?" the voice asked. "Wide-spectrum tranquilizer. Enough to stop a herd of rhinos. It'll stop you too. Tested some of your blood. Alien biochemistry, of course, but still carbon-based." The Predator pulled out the dart, tossed it, and began to emit the sitcom-canned laughter from Pickett's television. "Stop you," the voice said, between the roars of laughter. It tapped commands into the device attached to its gauntlet. "Understand the rules," the voice said. The laughter continued, and the ringside commentator began a countdown. 8, 9... "Counting?" Batman asked. 10. "It's over," the voice said. The beeping of the device began. Pot roast. More canned laughter. "Or counting down." Batman's eyes widened at the realization. He threw the switch, bringing the titanium bars up, and yanked at the large wiring connected to the controls. The sparks flew wildly, and Batman tightened his grip. He lunged straight into the Predator, aiming the crackling, snapping wire right into its face. Instinctively, it raised its arm in a defensive stance, and Batman was able to reach the truly intended target, the wrist gauntlet. A surge of electricity blasted both of them back in opposite directions. The gauntlet was affected enough to cause a malfunction. The beeping and the countdown ceased, and the damaged gauntlet was left sizzling and smoking, quite ineffective now. Batman grabbed the smoking wire and aimed it once more. The Predator turned and played the fight recording, now more distorted than ever. Still dancing. Batman quickly drew the dart gun, fired, and missed. The dart ricocheted off a corner within the cavern near where the alien ran. There was a trail of the glowing yellowish-green blood leading Batman toward the injured creature. He carefully aimed the dart gun and continued to follow. It was somewhere, here in the Batcave, though it was invisible once again. That, or very well hidden. Batman surveyed the cave and determined where it could truly only be. It had found the exit into Wayne Manor. The Predator reached for the door and paused at the approaching noise of the sonar. The dart fired, hitting another patch of skin. It snarled and fell backwards down the stairway leading out and crashed to the floor, knocking its head on some nearby equipment. The second shot, or the blow to the head, had finally rendered the thing unconscious. At least, it appeared to be. Batman didn't let his guard down as he approached. He steadied the dart gun. He leaned in, closer to the killer's helmet. He had to see the true face of this killer. Tugging at two small hoses, a whirl of gas and steam released, and the covering was removed. He stared at the ghastly reptilian visage of this alien assailant. A pained expression in these last moments. Teeth and pincers surrounded its mouth, which oozed of the glowing liquid. It was a repellent sight to behold. Underneath its mask, the see-through slasher was one ugly motherfucker. Its eyes opened and widened. Now it spoke in its own voice. "Hello." It shot up, striking Batman across the face with a fierce blow. It knocked him back, slamming him into one of his own trophies, the giant penny, a memento of a crime foiled long ago. Bloodied and dizzied, Batman attempted to rise back up. He groaned as he heard the slow, heavy creaking from above. Not quick enough. The penny toppled over, trapping Batman's lower torso beneath. The Predator rushed toward the trapped Bat, pressing its knee against his chest. "Son of a..." it said, but started at the echoing sound of someone loudly clearing their throat. Alfred, blunderbuss locked and loaded in hand, descended the stairs leading into the cave. "That's quite enough, thank you." He fired. The deafening blast rang throughout the cave. The shot blasted the Predator directly into the chest. Blood spurted and sprayed. The creature gagged and gurgled and fell back. "Alfred," Batman yelled, attempting to free himself from the giant coin. "I told you to get clear." Alfred was already taking the powder horn and refilling the muzzle. "I'm sorry, Master Bruce, but I couldn't just stand by and..." To his shock, the Predator leapt back up and began running toward him. "Alfred!" Batman yelled. It grabbed him by the neck, raising him up. He choked out a few assurances. "It's all right, sir. He doesn't scare me. The big bully." He felt the Predator's grasp suddenly weaken, then release altogether, throwing Alfred down the stairs. It wobbled about and rubbed at its forehead. "Crazy," it said. The tranquilizers had begun to take their effect. "Tranquilizer. Hell out." Still struggling, Batman called out to Alfred, who had gotten himself to his feet and delicately wiped his chin with a handkerchief. "Alfred, are you okay?" "Nothing broken, thank you, Master Bruce. I only pray the same is true of you." The Predator had reached the inside of Wayne Manor. It stumbled through into the study, mumbling the words and phrases it could remember. "Hell out. Tranquil..." It toppled over, running into the stuffed animal heads Alfred was preparing to take away. Trophies." The room began to spin. The beastly figures blurred in and out of its vision. Staring at him, the ghosts of generations long dead observed and judged. Tonight, they see their vengeance. It coughed and groaned. "Hell out." Alfred had retrieved a hydraulic jack and freed Batman from the weight of the collapsed piece of copper. "Really, sir," he insisted. "I'm sure your ribs are fractured." "I'm fine, Alfred. And the hunt's still on." He removed his helmet and handed it over to Alfred. "Here, this is just dead weight now. Master Bruce, please, let me come with..." "No. Seconds out, Alfred. Final round." He climbed the stairs and entered the study. The creature's blood and the old trophies of Grandfather Wayne were scattered about the floor. A loud crash of glass from the den sparked him to attention. Bruce followed the source of the noise and carefully crept into the doorway. The window had been smashed. The creature had escaped. From the mantelpiece, Bruce grabbed the baseball bat and stepped out of the broken window. This hunt would now lead him back into the woods. The trail of blood shone especially brightly in the moonlight. Bruce knelt and studied the substance. Still warm. The creature couldn't have made it too far. Fog enveloped the grassy hills behind Wayne Manor, and Bruce trekked deeper into the woods. The Predator had to stop. It leaned against a tree with one hand and clasped at its forehead with the other. The dizziness took over. If not from the tranquilizer completely, then surely due to the substantial loss of blood. It steadied, trying its best to pressurize the most urgent wounds. If it could regroup, access its medkit, and heal itself, it may yet still stand a chance. With a few deep breaths, this unfamiliar yet sustaining atmosphere brought the dizziness to a halt. Then, a voice. "Hi. It's me." Bruce swung the baseball bat with all of his conviction, knocking the Predator off its feet. A spray of blood, From its mouth and from its open wounds trickled and danced along with a fall that seemed almost graceful. It landed in a pile of leaves and Bruce hurried over, bloodied bat in hand. He leaned down, and he let the creature know his name. Batman. It began to parrot this name, but instead turned into a fit of laughter when it saw the look on Bruce's face. A bright light filled the sky and the entire woods. The ground began to rumble. The light stared right into Bruce's face. He stared back, in complete awe. The creature continued to laugh. "Little party," it said. Descending into the woods was a giant spacecraft. Branches and whole trees snapped as it lowered. The humming of its engine slowed and faded altogether once in place. At the front of the craft, a large opening revealed itself. Then a small army of these same hunter creatures came in rows down the ramp. All appeared to be armed. The last figure to exit, which seemed to be their leader, pointed toward Bruce and spoke in a language he couldn't even begin to fathom. One of the alien creatures grabbed at Bruce, causing him to release the baseball bat. More surrounded him and his opponent. The injured warrior was helped to its feet, more of the speaking of the mysterious alien tongue. They handed the warrior a large sword, all-knowingly calm in the face of what was next to occur. The predator held tightly onto the handle and raised the blade up. Whatever out-of-this-world material had been used to forge this sword, it gleamed eerily by the light of the moon. "Understand the rules. Loser," it said. A brief moment of hesitation. A final look up into the stars, and this would all be over with in one simple motion. And that it was. The predator plunged the blade into its bowels with a powerful enough strike to see it all the way through to exiting from its back. Blood spurted and poured, some spattering onto Bruce himself. He gritted his teeth and didn't look away from the sight. He understood. The warped sense of honor led this failed hunter into a ritualistic act of what best resembled Earth's harakiri from Japan's Showa period. He had seen it bleed. He had seen it in pain. He knew this being was capable of dying, just as any man. Every man dies eventually, not all with honor, and these seemed to be the terms with which the predator ended its life. It had lost. It had become dishonored. It understood the rules. The caped leader predator pulled the sword from the fallen one. Bruce struggled, but was still held back, now by two of these aliens. The leader wiped the blade clean. It looked at Bruce and spoke more in the indecipherable language. The two behind him released their grip, and the leader carefully handed the sword to Bruce. It spoke more, bowed, and presented this gift, this trophy. Bruce, still a little perplexed by the events unfolding, accepted. The others gathered around the corpse of the fallen one and picked him up. The leader spoke to them and began an ascent back into the ship. The others followed, taking the body with them. Engines roared to life, causing further rumbling throughout the woods. It swiftly rose to the sky, its lights near blinding. Bruce shaded his eyes and took in the amazing sight. In just a few moments, the lights faded, and the ship disappeared into the blackness of space. Bruce remained looking upward in contemplation until he heard Alfred. He still had the blunderbuss with him, just in case. "Forgive me, sir, but that light... I thought I saw..." "Don't worry, Alfred. The creature's dead. Taken by its kin, back to the stars." Its kin, sir? You mean somewhere out there there's a whole planet full of... Yes, with a cruel alien code of combat in which defeat equals death. I beat their champion, so it had to kill itself. They made me a present of the weapon it used. Another trophy, I guess. But what if they return, sir? They won't. Not now that they've met what lives in Gotham. Alfred and Bruce took one last look at the area and started making their way back to Wayne Manor. Bruce took a breath of the cold night air and savored it. Fine night, eh, Alfred? Indubitably, Master Bruce. And, if I may say so, a real hunter's moon. The light of the moon guided their journey back home, and the bats returned to the night, leathery wings flapping and dancing, illuminated by the lunar candescence. The sun would be coming up soon, and Gotham would awake to a new dawn. one that was not raging with violence or any further appearances from the slasher. A city kept safe by the champion of this interplanetary death match, the solemn protector of all those good and decent within Gotham, the Batman. Batman vs. Predator was written by Dave Gibbons, with art by Andy and Adam Kubert. The colorist was Sherilyn Valkenburg, and the cover artist for the 3 issues was Arthur Sudom. Upon its release, it was well received in the realm of comics, winning the prestigious Eisner Award for Best Inking. The Will Eisner Comic Industry Awards have been around for decades now, and the awards are given out annually still to this day. They're often thought of as the comic equivalent to the Academy Awards, so an achievement worth highlighting, as seen on the trade paperback collected edition. The fan reaction on both sides was positive, enough at least to warrant 2 sequels: Batman vs. Predator 2, Blood Match, and Batman vs. Predator 3, Blood Ties, as well as Superman and Batman vs. Aliens and Predator. But this was the first. This was the very first time we had a crossover with Batman in the Alien vs. Predator universe. It heralds something special. I feel this is one of the all-time great crossover comics. For starters, I think these characters just fit together so naturally into a story, and this is a very accessible story. Anyone with even just the rudimentary understanding of either the Predator or Batman will be able to pick it up and enjoy. But if you happen to know more, you can enjoy it more. As seen previously, these Predator creatures are always on the lookout for the ultimate human trophy. Dutch Schaefer, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger in the original film, his brother, Detective Schaefer, in the Concrete Jungle comic, and Lieutenant Harrigan in Predator 2. All highly capable heroes who are at the top of their field and prove to be a worthy challenge to the alien hunter. So of course Batman seems like an ideal match. Unlike the other comic book heroes, he doesn't actually have superpowers. He's very much human. He's the prime example of human ingenuity and drive at its strongest, with top physical prowess and intelligence. Still, he's vulnerable. He recognizes that this alien is much stronger than him. That creates a sense of urgency and a truly difficult foe to subdue. This makes the story all the more unpredictable and suspenseful, even if we do know instinctively that Batman obviously has to survive by the end to star in other comics. But it's all done in a very fair way. The Predator, quite frankly, fucks him up real good in this one. He's out of commission for over a week. It's rare to see Batman lose an initial fight that badly, and the only other instance of this I can think of, at the top of my head at least, is the infamous fight with Bane where his back is broken in the Nightfall storyline. To gain the edge in the fight, Batman requires his Exo Batsuit, a pretty heavy-duty piece of equipment needed only in extreme situations. Again, if I'm pressed to name another instance of this requirement, I can only think of one off the top of my head, and that's his fight against Superman in The Dark Knight Returns. And that was Superman. So I guess what I'm saying is that in the realm of all-time great Batman fights, I truly believe this matchup against the Predator deserves mention alongside those other iconic brawls. I've always been a fan of Batman, like many others, and I always like to keep up with the comics every now and then and revisit some of the classics, and of course watch the movies. I recently saw the newest Batman movie, The Batman, and really enjoyed it. Robert Pattinson was great in his role, and I think the character of Batman is his, as long as he wants it. I'm curious to see where they take this newer world they've created with the sequel. I appreciated how it went for the dark and gritty to the max angle, and yes, I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. And I really liked how they gave focus to a big murder mystery this time around. It was very intriguing. Batman has to solve the mystery of this elusive killer who's targeting political figures and mob bosses. And, well, I guess it struck me that this Batman vs. Predator comic and this movie have a similar outline, funnily enough. Maybe it could have focused on the media aspect more, like this story does. The whole ecosystem of cops, crime, and news, oddly relying on each other and having this symbiotic relationship, plays really well. But maybe the movie was long enough, and there's at least hints of that here and there. Either way, the cinematic journey of the Batman is far from over. But what of the Predator? Well, we do have a new movie, Prey, right around the corner. Everything's still kind of secretive around this production. I mean, if director Dan Trachtenberg had his way, we probably still wouldn't even know it exists. But we actually have a breaking news bulletin. As I've been finishing up the editing of this video, a new teaser trailer has been released, so it might be worth talking about at this point. I can say it certainly lives up to the name teaser. It's very brief, just showing us one little moment from the movie, but I think it establishes the tone they're going for. Trachtenberg on Twitter has proclaimed this one's going to be scary, so we may have many tense scenes to look forward to. We see two characters, presumably Comanche warriors, seeming to be in the middle of tracking down something mysterious in the wilderness. One believes to have spotted it, takes aim with their bow, and the predator aims right back. The three terrifying red dots make a triumphant reappearance. We finally get word of the release date, August 5th, and just a little bit more of the encounter with the invisible hunter as the warrior bears an axe and stares it down in terror. We hear the unsettling clicking and gurgling of the predator and the sound of the wrist blade, then the title screen. That's it. But that's enough for me. It's definitely a good tease and sparked my interest just a little bit further. I'm really curious about this one. It could end up being great and different, or it could end up a mess. Who knows at this point? If you happen to be watching this in the future, let me know if you thought the movie was any good. The year is 2022, and we have a new Batman movie and a new Predator movie, and that sits well with me. As for future crossovers between the two, I won't be holding my breath. It's miraculous enough that we got such DC Dark Horse crossovers in the past, like with Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, and the Justice League, but I don't see anything happening like that anytime soon. But on the plus side, if you are interested in crossovers, then Marvel now having the Predator franchise rights presents a world of possibilities. The new Marvel Predator comics will also be premiering soon, and much like when Alien made its debut, Marvel celebrated the occasion by unleashing a series of variant covers involving classic Marvel characters facing off against the Predator. These aren't actual stories, just covers, but it certainly sparks the imagination. We could see Predator versus Spider-Man, Predator versus the Hulk, Predator versus the Guardians of the Galaxy, Predator versus Thor, Predator versus Captain America, Predator versus Iron Man. Now that could be good. But any and all could be very cool to see, but I don't know if anything could top this Batman crossover. It's remained a fan favorite for years. It even got the NECA treatment not too long ago. They released a 2-figure pack with Batman and the see-through slasher, Batman in his special exosuit, and they even included the baseball bat he uses at the end, which is a nice touch. NECA always makes these great, highly detailed and carefully put together figures, so I'm glad they got their hands on this one. And I hope the comic itself continues to be discovered. In the increasingly litigious world of comic book releases, it may not be so easy these days. Marvel was quick to release new editions, both physically and digitally, of a great deal of its newly acquired Dark Horse IPs, but these crossovers are surely another story and surely a copyright nightmare now. For example, the images presented in this video are from a digital version of the DC Dark Horse Batman vs. Predator collection released in 2016. I purchased it pre-merger, and now it's been axed from all digital stores. You literally can't find it now. So if you happen to have your own copies of the original issues, or even the trade paperbacks, then definitely hold on to them. They are becoming increasingly rare. Just food for thought, but I'd like to thank you very much for watching today. This has been a very long video, so congratulations on reaching the end. This took a lot of time to put together, and I hate leaving things hanging between videos, but I just became so engrossed in this world, maybe I wasn't quick to want to leave. In other words, I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed putting it together. If you did, please make sure to give the video a like, and be sure to subscribe for all the latest videos from the channel. My humble and very special thanks goes out to Brandon James, Grizz4756, Ronni Jensen, and XenoShadowMorph, Queen Tiers of the Patreon Hive. Thank you so much to Gregory Ford and John Griggs, our Hive's Praetorians. A very special thanks as always goes out to the one and only Lady Anne in the Ellen Ripley Tier of Excellence, and in the role of Weyland Yutani Executives, my very, very special thanks goes out to Michael Cole, Nicholas Butta, and Wesley A. Weaver Jr. Thank you so much for your support. It's truly appreciated. And if you'd like to join the Hive and support the channel, check out my Patreon page for exclusive posts and contests. In the meantime, you can catch up with Alien Theory over social media. Follow @alien_theory on Twitter and @alientheoryyt on Facebook and Instagram for more. And until next time, this is Alien Theory, signing off.